Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. I am Michael Benitez. Today we're doing another episode. Today we're going to do a video on a fictional ship, but it is pretty famous because it has appeared in 3 movies and a miniseries. This ship was based off a novel by a man called Paul Gallico, and was based off a true story. Well, not entirely true, but and this ship was named the SS or RMS Poseidon. Let's begin the story of the origins of this famous fictional liner. The origins of the Poseidon is that one day during one of the Queen Mary's, the RMS Queen Mary's first ever voyages in 1936, there was a gigantic storm, and a tsunami or rogue wave, which is at least past 100 feet tall, hit the Queen Mary, but the ship did not roll over, but made pretty much the entire ship, crew and passengers very, very sick. However, one of the people on board the Queen Mary was a man named Paul Gallico. And in 1969, Paul Gallico based his story of the Queen Mary incident with his novel, The Poseidon Adventure. The story is that formerly named the RMS Atlantic, a ship named this ship was later named the SS Poseidon. Now, this Poseidon would start a lot more cruises, so this was the first voyage ever to have the name Poseidon. However, in Paul Gallico's novel, he did say some factual flaws into the ship. Paul Gallico mentioned that this ship, named the Poseidon, was very high at seas, which meant that it was very high in the ocean at seas, was improperly balanced, and was technically unseaworthy, and that the captain had asked for the ship to be taken out of service to be rebuilt, but the company did not allow this and threatened the captain to fire him if this change would happen. So in the novel, the Poseidon is technically an unseaworthy ship. The ship is described as 81,000 tons, as long as 4 city blocks, and is as tall as an apartment building. This actually was the basis for the Poseidon. Was actually the base of the Queen Mary with 3 funnels, which meant that Paul Gallico technically based his incident off of the Queen Mary, and used the description of the Queen Mary for the Poseidon. On December 26, the ship is struck by a tsunami or rogue wave, flipping the entire ship over. And then a whole bunch of passengers, and then a handful of passengers are able to survive by getting out of the ship through the bottom of the ship, which is now up. But after Paul Gallico released his novel in 1969, the Poseidon Adventure would become even more famous in a movie. At the end of the Poseidon Adventure novel, the Poseidon sinks. Then, in 1972, Ronald Neame made the film The Poseidon Adventure, starring Shelley Winters. In the movie, the Poseidon is not formerly the RMS Atlantic, but is in fact a liner on her last voyage to Athens before being sent to the scrapyard. So this happens on the Mediterranean, not the North Atlantic. However, the same thing complies, and the ship is hit by a tsunami. There was a full-scale model of the RMS Queen Mary, the basis of the original Poseidon Adventure, was used as the SS Poseidon herself. And trust me, they nailed it. The tsunami is caused by an earthquake, and it rolls the ship over completely over. This was probably one of the most creepiest movies to see an actual model of a ship actually capsize. And I bet a lot of people were actually kind of scared to be on the Queen Mary, because this was the actual basis of the actual ship. And this incident happens on New Year's Eve. In this first movie adaptation, the Poseidon tries to right itself, but it just rolls over completely onto its top. and the same thing complies with a handful of survivors. But in this movie, the Poseidon does not sink completely. It just capsizes while explosions are going on, and there's still some flooding. The Poseidon Adventure movie ended up being a huge success, and a lot of scenes were pretty graphic, and the special effects were spot on. Then, in 1979, Beyond the Poseidon Adventure was made, and this takes place right after the events of the first Poseidon Adventure. In this movie, two salvage teams, one American and one Greece, fight each other to get ownership over the ship, which has some valuable cargo aboard. They also discover some passengers that were not in the first movie but did survive. At the end of the Beyond the Poseidon Adventure, the ship does not actually sink, but is in fact obliterated in a huge explosion, killing the entire Greek salvage team. This movie, I don't understand why, but this movie was a complete failure. I don't see why though. This movie had great graphics and was very good. However, for the next 20-something years, there will ever be another adaptation of the Poseidon Adventure. But then, in 2005, the two-part miniseries, The Poseidon Adventure, was made. But this adaptation was completely different than the first adaptations. The Poseidon is a complete CGI cruise ship, not an ocean liner like she was in the original 1972 movie and the 1979 sequel. But in this movie, the main difference was the way the ship flips over. The ship does not flip over because of a rogue wave, but because of a terrorist attack. A bomb was planted, and basically this is why this is my least favorite film involving the Poseidon, because I don't see any point of it having a terrorist attack. I mean, what's the point? Still, handful of survivors, you know the rest of the story. However, this movie to me was not that good. And the final moments of this cruise ship was kind of similar to that of the fate of the SS Andrea Doria in 1956. The ship sinks bow first, still upside down. But trust me, this movie was very bad, I have to say, and it's not that good. So basically, this is my least favorite of the adaptations, and it was thought that no other film will be made about the Poseidon Adventure. But then, in 2006, Wolfgang Petersen made the 2006 film that was based on, it was called Poseidon, starring Kurt Russell in this amazing thriller. He was also Petersen was also the director of The Perfect Storm and Das Boot. In this movie, the Poseidon is not like in the 2005 Poseidon Adventure, but Poseidon is actually a cruise ocean liner, sailing from Southampton to New York. Some scenes were shot on the RMS Queen Mary II, the successor of the RMS Queen Mary, the basis of the first ever Poseidon Adventure. And other than the 1972 Poseidon Adventure, this movie was spot on. The movie showed many graphics as a handful of survivors try to survive the wreck of the Poseidon as she flips over from a rogue wave. However, in this movie, it is unknown what causes the rogue wave, but it is safe to say that it could have been an earthquake. But other than that, the 2006 Poseidon movie was one of the greatest ever to be made of the Poseidon. And in the end of this movie, the Poseidon Adventure, the RMS Poseidon rights herself, but then sinks stern first. But however, this movie was generally hated by fans, and I don't understand why. This movie was very good and very thrilling and exciting. Over the years, the Poseidon changed from this to this to this. A 20 feet tall, 13-deck ocean cruise ship. However, there have been other versions of what the Poseidon would have looked like. But nothing can outbest the classical. The original 1972 Poseidon is probably one of the best, with the 2006 Poseidon coming in second place. This movie was spot on, and I hope it will be remembered for generations to come. And Paul Galgo made a great idea as having the ship based off the Queen Mary, which is in Long Beach, California right now, and was actually had an event similar to that, but did not flip over. The Poseidon is one of the best known fictional ships in history and will remain that way for years to come. Some movies were bad, but some were really good. And nothing can outclass the novel. And I hope you all will remember the story of the RMS Poseidon. I am Michael Benitez signing out on the story of one of the most famous fictional ships ever to appear in movies. The story of the legend of the SS or RMS Poseidon. In the Poseidon Adventure, Beyond the Poseidon Adventure, the 2005 Poseidon Adventure, and Poseidon. Thank you very much for enjoying this video.